The culture of ancient Mali. Religion. The Empire of Mali was a multi-religious empire with Islam as its dominant religion. Many ethnic groups in Asia Mali traditionally believed in the spirits of the land, thought to ensure the success of their crops. The Mansa, or king, had the most direct link with the spirits of the land, making him both the religious and secular leader. For centuries, peasant farmers in rural areas continued with these traditional beliefs, since they were so closely dependent on the goodwill of the spirits of the land for their well-being, thus establishing ancient Mali's traditional religious beliefs. According to the World Atlas, Islam, on the other hand, came to Mali as a result of the Trans-Sahara trade in the 13th century. Islamic traders introduced not only material goods, but a new religion that offered membership in a highly privileged international trading club. Islamic practices such as the Hajj put them in touch with merchants from Egypt, Arabia, and Asia, and vastly increased trade, contributing to the prosperity of the kingdom. Thus, Islam became the religion of the kings and chiefs, traders and townspeople, who had strong political and economic motives for converting. However, Islam did not completely replace traditional beliefs, but thrived alongside them. Many people practiced a version of Islam that combined Islamic beliefs with the local traditions. Music and oral tradition. An essential part of Malian culture was their use of music and oral tradition to record their history, educate, and entertain their people. The memory of ancient Mali still burns brightly today thanks to the work of Mandika griots. In the time of Sunjata Keita, griots were essentially musical advisors that tutored princes, gave counsels to kings, and shed light on present-day problems. Over time, their purpose morphed into preserving Malian culture and reminding the next generation of Malians of their glorious place in history. Much of the history surrounding ancient Mali was recorded by these griots, the most cherished being the epic of Sunjata Keita, told for centuries, through the eyes of his very own griot, Bala Faseke. These oral historians were specialists of spoken word and described to possess a superpower known as Yama. According to the book, The World of the Mande, History, Art, and Ritual in the Mande Culture, the Mande saw Yama as a hot, wild, animating force of nature, present in all inhabitants of the earth, almost like a soul, but more complete than that. Yama sculpts the universe, and only the Yama claw could tap into this power, becoming griots, sorcerers, blacksmiths, or bards. Though Mali's literature is less famous than its music, literature was an important part of Malian culture. As the Timbuktu proverb by the 16th century Malian scholar Ahmed Baba goes, the ink of the scholar is more precious than the blood of a martyr. Timbuktu was famous for educating important scholars who were well known throughout the Islamic world. Many individuals traveled to the city to acquire knowledge, thus by the 14th century, important books were written and copied there, establishing the city as the center of significant written tradition in Africa. There was a huge demand all over for books and manuscripts from Timbuktu, and literature became a world symbol. Prominent families collected books from all over the world as competition, and a lot of profit was made from the book trade. The tens and thousands of manuscripts and ancient educational books produced in Timbuktu covered every aspect of human endeavor and continued to be indicative of the high level of civilization attained by West Africans during the Middle Ages.
The Mali Empire's architecture is a fundamental part of its history, and its study can shed light on the technology and values that the Mali Empire possessed. Some extant structures remain today and provide insight into the proud people of the Mali Empire. As Mali was an Islamic empire at the time, the architecture was very much influenced by Islamic thought and culture. The most grandeur extant Mali structures are masjids, the Islamic equivalent of churches or synagogues. Sankore University was one of the leading universities of Islam, according to Ibrahim Dauda. Masjids are also located in the large cities of Timbuktu, Gao, and Djenné and help spread the Islamic culture throughout the kingdom. As you can see, the masjids have several different spirals and are representative of Islamic minarets. Despite the Islamic influence, it is clear that these masjids are very different than traditional Middle Eastern masjids, showing that Mali architects incorporated their culture into the masonry work that they did, including the wooden beams used to support the structure, as shown here. Most of the Mali buildings are made using materials from the local environment, such as mud and clay. Even the masjids and royal palaces were constructed in this manner, and a lot of them have a surprising amount of uniformity. Although the buildings without attendants would degrade faster than other buildings, the fact that some of the masjids still stand today, despite being built in the 1300s, shows the care that the Mali people have towards their structures. Africa.edu highlights this dynamic. Quote, Constructed of blocks made from a mixture of rice, husk, earth, and water that it was allowed to ferment, it is an impressive structure, 4 stories high, with 3 minarets almost 60 feet high. End quote. Located all along the buildings are wooden posts used to support the structure as well as add an artistic flavor to the structure. The building has a natural feel, almost seeming integral to the ground around it. There are several examples of ancient Mali structures still standing today. One of them is the Great Masjid in Djenné, which has gone through its third reconstruction, mainly because the building went through several periods of neglect. The original masjid lasted until 1828, when most of it was destroyed to make way for a new masjid. It was then rebuilt by the French in 1836. It was rebuilt again in 1907 with its present look today. The masjid is still very much frequented and has become a popular tourist site in Mali due to its historical and cultural significance. The Djingiri Ber Mosque has existed since the 1300s and is part of an ancient university of Timbuktu. It hasn't undergone as much degradation as the Djenné Mosque and is still in relatively good condition. Despite this, there was an attack by terrorists on the masjid to destroy Muslim tombs back in 2012, as reported by the NY Times. There's also Sankore University, which is part of a collection of buildings in Timbuktu that still stand today and in relatively good condition. This is also a picture of the Djingiri Ber Mosque as well.
Africa, the continent that had had its history distorted and misconstrued according to Encarta. From the 13th to 17th century, the West African region that spanned parts of the Sahara Desert and the Atlantic coast boasted a major civilization for its time, the Mali Empire. According to Shalal Musa, Mali's etymology denotes where the king lives, a topic we will return to during this presentation. The rise of the Mali Empire stems from the fall of the Sahelian kingdom of Ghana by Sundiata Keita, better known as the Lion King. It's believed by National Geographic that this territorial expansion is the reason the Mali Empire flourished. Trade in the Mali Empire was the foundation to its lasting reign, since the land was abundant in natural resources, with salt mines along the northern edge, 2 copper mines in the far east, and especially the gold mines in southern Savannah. Due to this, Arab and African countries frequently dealt in exchanges with the Mali Empire. Heck, the first Roman coin was said to be minted from the gold mined in Mali. Not only was Mali abundant in natural resources, but many of its cities were considered centers of knowledge, commerce, religion, with high affinities for architecture, according to Dauda Ibrahim. The city of Timbuktu, in particular, is known to have had the Sankara Madrasa and the University of Sankore that produced plenty of astronomers, scholars, and engineers. Mali had kings that were called Mansa. However, David Conrad argues that the ruling figure had nominally restricted power compared to the Mali Empire's court officers that held more power. This is further supported by the fact that poor leadership and the occasional coup d'etat were present in the empire's history. As stated by James Robinson in Why Nations Fail, a decentralized state, one with political decisions being made by regional officials rather than the de facto leader, will bring about internal strife. An exception to this was the famously known Mansa Musa, who came into power in 1312. During this period, Europe was engulfed in natural disasters and civil wars, while the Islam and African nations thrived. According to Leo Africanus, Mansa Musa's strategic actions in annexing Timbuktu and reestablishing power in the city of Gao, he was able to open important trading routes between the Mediterranean and the West African coast. This led to an even greater period of territorial expansion for the Mali Empire. Eventually, the Mali Empire succumbed to civil wars and a declining influence in the 17th century after Mansa Musa's death.